Good morning, everyone. We welcome everyone here in the NSHE room and up north, part of our statewide system. So we appreciate that you are here. We will start off with a roll call.
Chair Brager.
Here.
Vice Chair Ariscotta.
Yep.
Regent Downs.
Here.
Regent Goodman. Regent McMichael.
Here.
You do have quorum. Dr. Acharya.
Present.
Mr. Adams.
I'm here.
Mr. Cherry. Ms. Connor. Dr. Cram. Dr. Donnelly. Ms. Ebert. Mr. Gilliland.
Here.
Ms. Harif. Dr. Hilgerson. Dr. Keebler.
Here.
Dr. Nichols. Mr. Hernandez.
Here.
Dr. Pollard. Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Sandoval. Dr. Weekly.
Here.
Dr. Whitfield. Mr. Wixom.
I'm here. Thank you.
And we do have Ms. Connor and Regent Goodman.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. We will now do the Pledge of Allegiance led by Regent McDonald.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Okay, before we begin, we're going to take a moment to recognize that here in Nevada, we stand on the land of the Washishu, Numu, Nuwi, Nuwu. We take a moment to recognize and honor their stewardship that continues into today. With this recognition, we state an intention to rightfully include their voice and respect them as the 27 sovereign tribal nations of Nevada. Okay, we are now going to go into public comment. Before we do that, for those that would like to call in, please dial 666-444-9171, meeting ID 928-4944-5069, and the passcode is 555555. Is there any comment at the system office in Reno? Hearing none, we will go on to public comment in Las Vegas. Seeing none, and is there any public comment on the phone? There's no comment at this time. Thank you, we appreciate that. Okay, we will go on to item number 2.
Excuse
the
me,
committee
Madam
will
Chair.
consider approval. I'm sorry.
I do believe that you have Great Basin connected
Oh, it
as well.
wasn't? Okay. Sorry about that. I did skip it. Is there any comment at Great Basin? Thank you so much.
It's none at this time.
Thank you, and I apologize for that mistake. I will now go on to, thank you, Ms. Carey. The committee will consider approval of the minutes of the September 26, 2024 meeting. Are there any corrections or deletions on that? Otherwise, we'll accept a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me just go on to this next page here. Okay, now for the fun part, and I do really think it's fun. We have with us today Mr. Jim Johnson, Miss Julie Hawley, and Itza. Say it again, I apologize to you.
It's Itza.
Itza, thank you. I should have put an E above there. Walters of Greenwood, Asher and Associates, and I apologize to you. We're going to lead a discussion on the Chancellor search process, including a proposed timeline, recruitment, and screening of applicants, semifinalist candidate interviews to be conducted by the search chair in consultation with the search consultants. And I know you all can read, so I'm going to stop there because being read to is sometimes a little insulting how I feel. So what we'll do now, I would like to turn it over to you before we go to making sure the criteria and what we're going to do would be extremely important. So anything you need to say before we get to item number 4.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Just some introductory remarks. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes and talk about item 3, if that's possible, an overview of the search process.
Of course.
First up, let me say, though, that we are really honored to have been selected to partner with you in this really important search here in the Nevada system. We're pleased to be here today with you, especially since the temperature is a little bit more moderate than it was when we were here last time. So much appreciated, and thank you for arranging that. We are really eager to get out into the market, and we're extremely interested in your feedback here today. We want to make sure that we're putting your best foot forward when we go out into the market. So we're, again, very interested in your feedback on the process, on the documents that we have drafted for your consideration here today. So the search process, if I could ask you to look at reference 3, CS3. This is just a very high-level overview of the process, and after I do that and respond to any questions or get input from you, then I'll hand it to my colleague Julie Hawley, who will go through the profile and manage that input process from you, and then Itza Walters will present to you our advertising plan for the search. So let's look at item 3 then, reference 3, and you remember the search process really is in 5 phases. 1 being planning, 2 is the recruiting, 3 is evaluation, 4 is decision, 5 is transition. And so we are right at the end of the planning process, and as a result of your input today, incorporation of all of your comments and guidance for the profile and the advertising, we will move over literally next week into the recruiting phase. I would note that there are people who are aware of this, and we've already had some soft conversations with people about this opportunity. There is high interest in the market for this role. So again, today we're in phase 1, planning. We begin next week in the recruiting phase, and remember that is the advertising. Also seeking nominations. So this profile that we put together here shortly will be a really important document for all of you. You can certainly share it with people in your networks, and feel free, please. In fact, more than that, we encourage you to provide us any nominations that you have for this critical role. After we've been out in the market, seeking nominations, the advertising, and also what we call market segmentation. I described that briefly in our last meeting with you, when we're going after specific people and specific institutions in specific roles for this opportunity. We then move into the evaluation phase, and that's on February 10th. That's when we will meet with the search committee chair and go through all of the prospects and their CVs and their cover letters, all of that. And the key decision coming out of that meeting is who would get an interview, a first round interview. That would be the week of February 24th. The key decision coming out of that meeting is who would get referenced. And recall our description of the referencing process in our last meeting. We do 360-degree referencing. So past 10 years, subordinates, peers, and supervisors. We also do very thorough social media checks on the candidates. The last thing we want for you, for anyone, is for there to be surprises in this process. So that will be done. We provide that reference feedback report on March 10th, and the decision coming out of there is who is then a finalist. And those interviews would be in early April of 2025, and then the decision, so we move to phase 4 at that point, and then that decision would be put to the board. And then transition is critically important. We want to make sure that this selected person hits the ground running for all of you. So before we move into the profile, are there any questions, comments you have about the search process itself?
Question from Reno.
When we get the finalists, do we receive information on any public comments that occur about them?
You will get all the information that we have. So there'll be summaries of referencing. You'll have their documents. Well, there will be public sessions, and we will have a survey form so that those who have any interaction with the finalists can input, their views of those candidates on that survey form, and those survey results will be made available. Yes.
And we will have in-person meetings with the finalists.
Thank you. My question might be for you, Madam Chair, actually. I know last Chancellor search, there was a lot of discussion about how the finalists were selected by the chair. Could you inform us of what processes you might be considering when finalizing the round of candidates to bring forward?
So what's interesting about our state is that the legislature feels that more than one is a quorum. So that creates a little bit of a roadblock there to be able to have the committee, that are on the committee be able to discuss those. So what'll happen, myself and the search firm, they'll go through and make sure everybody meets our criteria. Mm-hmm. And then after that, my goal would to have 3 to 4 people that would be candidates that would come forward. And then it comes before the public and everyone on the committee. So I would like it and would like to work on next time, hopefully not for 8 years or longer, that we could get the legislator to understand that one is not a quorum. And if we could have just leadway in that area, I think it'd be a very healthy discussion among committee members.
If I may also add a little bit, if I could, Madam Chair, that is, we will, and Julie will talk about this when she talks about the profile. The profile is not simply information about the role for candidates. It really becomes the framework, the conceptual framework for the entire search process. So when we are reviewing candidates, we will be comparing them to the standard, to that rubric. Now, certainly near the end of the search process, we'll be comparing candidates to candidates. But early in the process, it really is comparing them to the standard that you're seeking. So there is rigor, and it is a systematic process. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone online or up in any other area of our state? Seeing none, we will continue on.
Madam Chair, question.
That Regent Ariscotta.
Thank you, Chair Breger. With the start date being advertised, position identified as of November 15th through the 22nd, is there an end date, also the final date to accept applications? And what is that end date?
The end date would be February 10th, but we would encourage people to submit their materials by the end of January. Often, we do get some of the best packages and applications very close to that prospect review meeting. But really, we're going to ask people to get their stuff in at the end of January so that we have plenty of time to look that material over prior to that prospect review meeting.
Is it a hard end date, or are applicants able still to submit their interest after the hard stop date, excuse me.
They are, certainly. What the language we will use is for best consideration. Please submit materials by fill in the blank, which would be the end of January.
But applicants still will be reviewed even if they're submitted after the stop date. Is that correct?
Yes, they will. But again, we want to encourage people to get their materials in for best consideration. Yes.
Okay. What if a person applies at the very end and does not apply through the required methods? Let's say by applying through the close date or notifying their direct supervisor, or perhaps participating with certain interviews, or willingly sharing their CV or letters of recommendation or the public interview. Will the person still be allowed to find their way into the application process?
Well, it's a very good question, and I think what we would do is evaluate that person's package. And if the package is extremely strong and compelling, we would consult with the chair and then make a judgment at that point whether it makes sense to include that person in the process or not. And I would say that we have managed searches where extremely strong candidates come in at the very, very end, and those have been integrated into the process and gotten the job.
Even if they manipulated their way in without going through the entire interview process or submitting their CVs or the resumes,
they would
still be interviewed?
They would submit their CVs, certainly, and we would, if, again, it's got to be a very, very compelling candidate, they would get an interview. So we would try to provide them the same level of review as folks who got their materials in on time.
But not the very last minute, let's say just a couple days beforehand, and they deceitfully find their way into the process. That person will not be being reviewed or considered. Is that correct?
Regent Ariscotta, this is Susan Brager. I'm going to interject a little bit. I appreciate what the consultants are saying. I'm looking for timeliness, and the reason is it's not like your dog ate your homework type thing. I think that we need to consider people that want to apply and that we have a cutoff date, but if it was for some reason they had some sort of illness and something and came in by the 23rd of February, then I think that could be a consideration. I think later than that is just, would be not, to me, not, I'm not the whole committee, but that's my opinion as chair, is I think timeliness shows that they really care, they want to apply, and I think that's how we need to do it. I'm open for any other discussion on that, but I think that's an important quality. I don't want them showing up late for meetings or late for interviews or anything like that. That doesn't show me that they have a quality to be here.
Regent Brager, you're echoing my sentiment. You're
Okay.
echoing my sentiment, so thank you so
I
much.
couldn't quite figure out what you were going, but I did understand in a way. Regent Goodman.
Thank you. Again, I think this is controlling the narrative from the get-go, and we should have a hard stop of February 10th. If that's the hard stop, it should be the hard stop, because frankly, I don't want anybody that, maybe didn't get the other job that they wanted, and now they maybe want this one. So I really think that we need to control the narrative from the get-go. This is an opportunity, and I'll have a few things to say about that piece as well.
Good.
This is a huge opportunity. This is Las Vegas, this is Nevada, and there's a lot that is happening here, and I really feel like this is something where I realize there have been some challenges in this system, but every system has challenges, and this is an opportunity. It's a great opportunity.
Thank you.
And I think-
We take your direction.
Okay, and I think that is important. I agree 100%. I could see, that I think it's an amazing place to come. There's a lot of growth, there's a lot of viability, there's amazing people and staff to work with, and so it should be an honor, I think, to be picked. So continue on with what you have before we go to the next step.
Okay, thank you. That's all we, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Boylan, or Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. You said that the legislature, whoever considers more than one person a quorum, maybe you should look at NRS 241.015. A quorum is a simple majority of the total body. So you as one are not a simple majority of the total body of this committee. If I remember correctly, the full board had decided that not just one person will be making these decisions, the chair and the vice chair will be part of it. So please, if you don't mind, before we go on, this is an important thing. Let's get legal's guidance on this.
I'll ask Mr. Nielsen to please respond to that.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Regent Boylan, yes, you did correctly quote the statute. Yes, that is the language of what constitutes a quorum under the open meeting law. However,
Yes,
when
sir.
we have committees and when the concerns always is with any body, a larger body as the Board of Regents, which is comprised of 13, and then with committees such as this committee and other committees, there even though less than a quorum technically can meet and not violate that open meeting law rule, it always increases the risk. So there's always a concern whenever we get one or more than one region together. And I think that's what I believe Regent Brager was referring to. So I hope that clears it up. But Regent Boylan, you did correctly quote the statute.
Yeah,
So-
thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So I think we should stick to that, Madam Chair. But
If we
thank
are
you so
legally
much, Mr.
allowed
Nielsen.
to, if we are legally allowed to, I would. I was told that we were told in this particular situation, just like last time, that more than one
Yes, ma'am.
for the committee was that, but I will follow any rules from our legal counsel.
Madam Chair. Chief of Staff
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Nikolajewski, for the record, the NSHE code states that the committee chair, in consultation with the search consultants, shall select the finalists.
Thank you for that information. Okay, moving on. And I appreciate the comments from everyone. Everything is important and your opinion matters. So you were okay with your number 3, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will go to the Chancellor Leadership Profile, and Greenwood, Asher, and Associates will present a draft leadership profile for the Chancellor for review and discussion by the Search Committee. The Regents Committee may approve the draft profile or direct the search consultants to revise the draft. And what I would like to do now is have you share what you received in the emails that we turned into you. I do have something from President Whitfield that he sent that I would like to make part of the record that I could give to you, and I'll read some of his, not all of it. But I think today is very important to share. If you felt that everything was not gathered on what was turned in, this is absolutely the time to share who we want in a chancellor. And so this is going to be very important that you are heard and that we take that into 100% consideration. So please go ahead. I'll turn it back over to the consultants.
I'm sorry about that. We're in the process. What we submitted to you was essentially a draft, so you would see an outline of what the profile will look like. We have received great feedback from you board members and also from various constituencies who provided a lot of input for us to then take into account and incorporate into the profile. Just as a starting point, this profile is what, as Jim said, is really the conceptual framework for the search and is what we will use as a guide as we are going out and recruiting and determining whether or not someone is qualified for the position. So it is critically important that that the duties and responsibilities and the qualifications are outlined to your specifications so that everything that you're looking for is incorporated into the profile so that there aren't any gaps and that we aren't missing folks that we should really be focusing on. So this is an important meeting for us to take these notes along with the feedback that we received previously and then get that incorporated into the profile. We know that we're going to beef up the About the Opportunities section as well as the About Nevada section and the System section. We're also going to include a statement about the land acknowledgement in the profile. So there are additional pieces that will be added to the profile in addition to what you all share with us today, which will be incorporated. I also want to note that with respect to this being the conceptual framework of the position. It will also inform the rubric that we build, so we will align that with what you said you're looking for, and we'll be able to use that kind of as a check mark system in terms of making sure that the candidates that are presented to the chair are meet the requirements for the position, and be able to evaluate those that are really kind of excelling and maybe even going above and beyond what you said you're looking for, and be able to present that to her at the next meeting. And in addition, it will also help inform the interview questions that she will be using to interview the candidates that are interviewed at round 1 and even at round 2. And then also it will help help us in terms of the referencing that we'll do on any candidates that are advanced to referencing. We'll be able to make sure that we have the information that you need to help determine whether or not these candidates are somebody that you'd like to bring in as a finalist. And then even the profile will be used to, as Jim said, the candidates are measured against each other, but it will also be used to help inform you as you're evaluating the candidates when they come to campus. So it really is the big overarching document that you'll use as we go through the search process. The other thing to keep in mind, it really is a legally binding document that you'll be measuring the candidates against. So if some fabulous candidate comes on who doesn't have, say, a college degree, but has everything else you're looking for and maybe brings some added value, if you decided you wanted to hire him, you really would have to kind of start over with this document and rewrite it if they didn't meet the qualifications. So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well. I think, Jim, and you may want to do something different, but I think what would be helpful for us now is you all have seen this document, so if there are things that are missing, this is the time where we really want you to be able to weigh in and share, especially with respect to the essential duties and responsibilities and then the qualifications section.
Thank you, Susan Breger, for the record. I think this would be a great time, as you're stating, to do that. And what I'd like to do, so I don't miss anyone, is I'd like to go down the roll call and see if after you've looked at the essential duties and responsibilities, and the minimum basic requirements and desired experience, if there's something that is not there, this is the time for us to fine tune who that chancellor will be and how they will perform. So if you don't mind, I'll start with Dr. Archara, President Archara. If you have anything to add to that, that would be appreciated. And then I'm going to go to the people that are in the room after I go online.
Sorry. Thank you, Chair Breger. I don't think I have anything to add at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Taylor Adams?
Thank you for recognizing me. No concerns with the document as it is.
Okay, and I know Mr. Cherry is not on, but I still want to call his name. Miss Valerie Connor.
Valerie Connor for the record. I just had one question on the minimum basic requirements. It says bachelor's degree or higher, so anything higher doesn't have to be spelled out. It's just said or higher.
I think that if we want a master's in education or a master's in business management or an I just forgot the initials. Anyway, I think that would be the time to call it out right now.
Yes, I think it should be spelled out because if you're looking at it, so a person with a bachelor's degree that may not have experience that may want to apply, but it says it's higher. I think it should be spelled out master's or PhD required.
Thank you for that. Dr. Cram.
This may sound odd. I don't think I explained very well in my first comment. I always found it very interesting to analyze the public comments that were made about various candidates you were going to accept. Letters to the editor, social media comments that were made, comments that may have been made in board meetings, that kind of thing. They're not as substantial as written comments made by people you may contact, but sometimes they're a clear indication of a problem that's lurking out there that you wouldn't normally research if you didn't go to those ends. I wonder if you examine those, if you think they're pertinent, if they'd be provided, that kind of thing.
Yes, Dr. Cram, we do a thorough check.
Your microphone.
There we go. Yes, Dr. There we go. Okay, don't just push on. Okay. Yes, we will gather as much information as possible as we can find on these folks. We have tools that enable us to get behind paywalls of newspapers. And then, but it's really important that we validate, because sometimes stuff out in the media doesn't have foundation. Yeah, exactly right. But it's our important task to provide all of that information that's available to you.
Thank you. Dr. Donnelly. Superintendent Ebert. Mr. Gillian.
Nothing to add, but can I reserve, because I know, are we going to get a chance to look at this once they revise this based on the feedback?
Absolutely.
I'm assuming there may be some changes. I think the only thing I would just add is, in terms of the qualifications, I'm a huge fan of making them as minimal as possible, but maximum to cover the basics. So that way we can throw the broadest net out there and capture as many candidates as we can. So I like that we have 2 listed there. Are those the right 2? I don't know, but I like to leave that as minimal as possible. And then obviously the preferreds are far more extensive.
We could include perhaps the higher level degree as a desired characteristic then.
That's how I've been doing HR for a while. So that's how I've always handled it, is don't cut or don't count out any candidates at your minimums. If you're doing that, then we need to look at the minimums. Let's just throw the broadest net possible, and then we can differentiate based on those, or sorry, the committee can differentiate based on those preferreds. So just my 2 cents.
Madam Chair, pardon the interruption. Carrie Nikolajewski, Chief of Staff for the record. I just wanted to clarify a response to Mr. Gilliland's question. After the search consultants update this profile, it will not come back to the committee. It will be reviewed and approved by the search chair. And that's intended to not further delay getting that recruitment period going. So state your comments today. This is your shot, and the chair will make sure that the profile is complete.
I think my concern there is we don't know what the responses were and what that has done to change the profile. So on the qualifications, that's about the only comment I have then, if we can keep that in mind, but I can't really speak to the other areas without seeing.
And I appreciate that. I just want to give a clarification. I don't see, and this is just me, I don't see anything wrong with it going out. And if there was some discrepancy that they felt was strong, I don't think we have a meeting on it. I think that they can share that with the consultants. I think that would be important. So not a meeting, but that they would get it to make sure that everything was there, because this is so important, and I want everyone to make sure their voice was really heard. So we would not do a meeting, but I think it would be valuable to make sure that for some reason we didn't miss something, even though you're hearing what we're saying very clearly. Thank you. Ms. Hariff. Dr. Hilgersom. Dr. Kibler.
I did have one question on the degree qualification you had in there. You have a statement equal in rank to those having membership in the Association of American Universities. You know, there's only about 70 of those, and they're research institutions. It's kind of in the same spirit that Eric said. That seems like a narrowing. Now, I know you say those equal in rank. I'm not sure how that's determined. I'll just pick one at random. Let's say we have an applicant whose degree is from the College of William and Mary. They are not an AAU institution, might not be considered equal in rank, but it's an exceptional institution. And so therefore, I certainly wouldn't want to eliminate somebody from our pool because they didn't meet that. I just find the AAU standard to be pretty lofty. I don't know if that's one you've used before or whatever, but what's that? Oh, you did that? That's your preference?
No, I did not do that. This is actually in Nevada revised statutes, this qualification.
Okay. I stand corrected then. I didn't know that. You can tell I'm new to Nevada, right?
That's okay. Then a question to that before you continue on. Can we add an or it has to be like that? Because the statutes are many and I don't have them memorized, to be quite honest. I know, the system is really exciting.
Okay, I got the mic on. Carrie Nicolajewski, Chief of Staff for the record. I believe that you do have to stick to the language that's in the statute. I think the question is, what is equal in rank to? So
Okay.
perhaps those in the room can provide some thoughts and direction on that.
Thank you. Back to the,
Well, one way we could do that, you raise a good point. One way we can do that is use an alternate ranking system. So we know the 65, 66 institutions in AAU, and then we could say, okay, what are the top 65 or 66 institutions by other measures, right? So they're comparable, they're different scale.
That sounds
but they're
reasonable to me. I'm
comparable.
not sure what the statute limits. The statute specifically states AAU?
Equal in rank.
Okay.
So I think there's
Yeah, that gives us some discretion. We can
Yes.
certainly make that determination.
Yeah.
You know, you could take a place like William and Mary and say prestige-wise and reputation-wise,
Yeah.
they're equal in rank.
Right.
From a research perspective, would they ever qualify to be in AAU? That's questionable. So, but I get it. So, okay. I apologize for raising that. I didn't realize it was in the statute.
oh, please don't. I think that's very important. And sometimes as we go through these processes, and I'm going to come over here, that we need to look at some of the statutes that we're not in control of,
Sure.
but that some are antiquated.
Yep.
Legislature's going to love me after today. Mr. Gillian.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm having heart palpitations. I think we need to avoid any kind of approach that we would select or not select a candidate based on the institution they went to. Because the degree is the degree. If it's an accredited institution, then that degree, in my mind, is of equal rating. So I would recommend that we take a broad approach to how we evaluate that equal rating standard. And we could internally just apply a standard that says if it's from an accredited institution, we will determine that that is of equal ranking. I just would hate to get where we're saying, well, you went to this university, that doesn't qualify, and then we create potentially a risk of candidates. Let's just say they went to a historically black college or university and that didn't meet that ranking and we've excluded that candidate. So I would prefer that we take a broad approach to how we define equal ranking and apply if it's an accredited, whatever the accreditations are there, I know there's many, that would be my recommendation.
And I think that's a very good one. I mean, it could be, I don't know, do all admirals and generals have college degrees? I don't know sometimes. Okay. And thank you for that. That is very important. Sir, please go ahead if there was anything else.
That was all I had at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
That wasn't all. That was amazing. That was very good for bringing it up. Dr. Jane Nichols?
Hello, for the record, Jane Nichols. I'm not at all sure that this is something that we want to put in this advertisement, but I want to get it on the record that it's very important, I think, going forward for our success. I think a commitment to Nevada and higher education in Nevada is a characteristic that we want to see in the next chancellor, not just a step up on a professional ladder, but a commitment to us and a commitment to our state and a commitment to our students. So if somehow we can say, or at least be aware as we go forward in this process, that someone who we would hire as chancellor should have the same dedication to the state as we might elect as governor, let's say, or one of our representatives. We want someone who cares deeply about us and about our state, and in some way in this search process, be able to identify that.
Thank you so much for that comment, and we can tell that you have a love for the state and for the system. I appreciate that. We will go on to Mr. Kevin Osero.
Thank you. I was reading on under the essential duties and responsibilities, line 2, lead with full cooperation and input of the president. And it goes on. I wanted to know if perhaps we can add a word or a sentence maybe in there, or a few words in there that talk about lead with full cooperation and input of the presidents and other stakeholder groups, kind of like the Nevada Student Alliance, the Faculty Senate folks, and other stakeholder groups that the chancellor usually meets with. I don't know if it would fit in there, but.
It's a very good point, if I may say so, and we can incorporate it. It may not be in that particular bullet, but it can definitely be incorporated, key stakeholder collaboration, essentially, getting input, being inclusive in terms of input from those folks.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. We will go to Dr. Pollard. Mr. Sanchez? President Sandoval? Mr. Week, or Dr. Weekly? Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've heard some really great comments thus far, and Eric, let me just say I thank you for your comments as well, because when it comes to the equal rankings, I agree. And that goes down to that number 5 advertising plan. I'd like to make sure that as we advertise that we do make sure that we don't leave out some of the institutions that I believe probably rank higher than what we're looking for in terms of equal rankings. We have a lot of great schools that are out there that would put forth very viable candidates. I believe that would apply for a position like this. I also agree with Madam Chair, the broadest net possible. I think that was a very great point. We definitely don't want to miss anyone. Ms. Jane had spoke about someone who loves Nevada and someone who loves us. You know, let's just hypothetically say someone from out of state come to Vegas or comes to Nevada. They'd have to be able to really come in and build some relationships, because that's what we're built on. We're built on relationships here. And, you know, when we look at the climate of where education is pending right now, it's definitely going to have to be someone that knows how to pivot, that will be able to move swiftly in these trying times. We like to think here in Nevada that we're different than a lot of folks around the country. We like to think that everybody knows each other and that, oh, well, that's not how we think or that's not how we feel here in Nevada. I just think that it's a new day and that we're just going to have someone that could be able to conform with our times. You know, when I think of our governor, you know, Governor Lombardo, he, you know, I had a great conversation with him in terms of, wow, Lawrence, this is different. You have to be able to pivot real quick. And I think that that's what it's going to take to be able to, because when you look at our Board of Regents, you guys are some tough cookies. I'm going to tell you, our Regents, you guys got a challenging job on your hands, handling the whole state. But, you know, it's just going to have to be someone that's going to be real special, that can build relationships, and someone who's going to definitely, coming off of a really tough legislative session that we are about to embark upon. That person's going to have to come in here and just be ready to rock and roll. The learning curve is going to be so short, and it's just going. Again, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. I think one of my final comments was that also, Madam Chair, was that a solid education for me is important because, you know, I think that they should be able to understand higher education. You know, me having an opportunity to work aside Dr. Kibler, he brings a wealth of knowledge to us at the College of Southern Nevada, and we appreciate and respect that. Someone like me who've had an opportunity to work alongside you, Madam Chair, for years, and you, Regent Goodman, as well, going into higher education was very, very different for me. It was a different world, and so being able to align with some of these folks who have that higher education experience. And it was a learning curve, but it was helpful because of the relationships. And, I like to think today, I make Dr. Cram very proud because everybody knows that was my high school principal and the very first person who hired me out of undergrad. And so, yeah, it's going to have to be a very special person that we bring into this spot, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weekly. And I think probably one of the first things is please know how you say our state. So, sorry, Dr. Cram, go ahead, and then I'll keep on going.
The candidates have the support of the people they serve within the institution, and also if they have public support. What factors do you use to determine that? Because I find sometimes people are very skilled in the job, but it's the outside forces that don't do well with them. How do you determine that?
Well, Dr. Cram, that's a great question. And I think going back to your original question, one of the ways to assess that is review of the social media and of the mainstream media as well about these candidates. In addition to that, certainly when we get further in the process for those candidates who make it to the referencing phase, we will be talking to subordinates, peers, and supervisors. But in addition to that, one of our final questions in the referencing always is there anyone else we ought to talk to? And we will get the candidate's permission to go off list. And then we'll start talking with those folks so that we get as accurate a view as we possibly can through referencing.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you for that. We will go on to, Dr. Whitfield is not here. I'm going to give to the record what he's stating, and it was mainly about good emotional intelligence, knowledge and experience with local, state, and federal agencies. He is out of town and did request that this be part of it, so I will give it to you. But it had a lot of what was on here, but a few that might not be, and I thought that would be worthy of turning in. And now we have Mr. Michael Wixom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael Wixom for the record. I have two technical questions and comments. This is on page 3 of 3. The first point is, I think it's the fourth bullet point. It says, present all appropriate NSHE matters to the governor's office and the state legislature. I'm not sure what that means entirely or specifically. I know there are certain statutory reporting requirements under Nevada law in which you have to present certain reports and matters to the governor's office. And so there was an implication when you say present all appropriate matters. Again, I don't know what that means entirely. Perhaps it could be rephrased, comply with all reporting requirements on the part of NSHE with respect to the governor's office and the state legislature, something like that. I think that's a bit too nebulous. The other one is if you provide that, assure that all budgets are executed in accordance with the intent of the Board of Regents and the legislature. Technically, the chancellor is responsible for supervising the preparation of the budget, and the budget is then presented to the governor, and then the governor presents the budget to the legislature. And so there are really two parts to this bullet point. The first is the preparation of the budget as part of NSHE. Then that budget is presented to the governor's office, and then the governor presents the budget to the state legislature. The state legislature then reviews the budget, and then the governor and the legislature produce the final budget. And so I think there are really two parts to that. The first is the preparation of the budget, which is a very technical and challenging process. And the second part, instead of using the word executed, perhaps we could say carry out the budget or something like that. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are.
So really, there are two parts, and the preparation of the budget, and then after the budget is approved by the legislature, effectuating the budget. Maybe that's a better term, effectuating the budget.
Or implementing the budget, but
implementing, effectuating, implementing. Okay. Yeah, implementing is a better term.
Okay, thank you.
But
sir.
other than that, I thought. Thank you.
Yep, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Wixom. Dr. Pollard, do you have anything? We're on item number 4, and I know you might have been traveling to get here, and I wanted to make sure that you were heard from. Or on item number 4 of the profile, I know that you probably sent in information. Is there anything that you feel was not in that criteria that you would like to share?
Good morning, Darian Pollard for the record, and I apologize, Madam Chair, we had a donor event this morning, it ran over. I would, if you don't mind, if I could come back, I did review the materials. I'm making assumptions, but a number of things have probably been raised here, so if I could maybe follow the themes, then I'll come right back and give you any feedback, if you don't mind.
That is fine.
Thank
One
you.
of the main items that came up was making sure we cast a larger net than a smaller net.
Yes.
That was very important to the committee and to the advisory group. And so that was one of the main things. But no, you're welcome to do that. I'll let you pause for a moment and go from there. Yes, sir.
And I apologize, I keep coming back. I don't see anything in the profile about Nevada, about Las Vegas, about Henderson. There's an initial blurb. Is that going to be added in?
Yes.
Because I think we have to sell people on how incredible this location is. And those of us that live here, we know how incredible it is. And we're changing. Our economy is changing. We're no longer just gambling. We're gambling in sports.
Okay.
But we are diversifying. So we're going to have to sell, right, Nevada to these candidates.
Yes, we understand that. This round the horn is really just about the essential characteristics for what you're looking for. I would ask the chair, when we're done with this, then we would move to about the university, the role, and then yes, about Nevada. So those would be basically the 3 big sections of this document, but we're focusing in on the first section at this point.
But knowing that those of us that have been here forever, we are sensitive to knowing that, home, and I'll just go back to my elementary school days, home means Nevada. And it really means a lot more than what people think. I'm in real estate for 34 years, and in the beginning they'd say, which hotel do you live in? Or is there churches here? Or, things like that. And I think letting people know that and I know that this isn't the time, but I still would like to reflect on that for a moment, that we are more. We have a medical school, 2 medical schools now within the state. We have more than 2 hospitals. We used to have only 2 hospitals in the state. I remember when we had 1. People used to say, why'd you put the airport, in the middle of the town? Well, there was no town. So those things that, that when I grew up, or a lot of us that came from here, Regent Goodman, Dr. Weekly, all the rest of you. I know Dr. Cram's been here. I don't know everybody's dates, but I mean, when you've spent 60 or more years here, you take it very sensitively because we are more than gambling. Sometimes we don't even go near the Las Vegas Strip, as wonderful as it is and how much it is part of our state. The El Dorado days, there's so many things that embode what comes here. Mount Charles, I mean, I could go on and I won't now, but all those things that I even do to sell my clients when they come for a job, not just moving for the sake of moving. So thank you so much for saying that, because it is sensitive, saying the state name correctly. It's not Nevada, so, that just makes us all kind of ripple. You're doing good now. So I think those are important factors. It's more than just coming to the college system. It's about believing in us. And so thank you for that. I feel very strong about that myself. I'm going to go now to Regent Goodman, and then I'll go to my right over here.
Thank you, Chair. So I will actually kind of echo and elaborate on some of the points that were made. Regarding our net, just because the statute says that we have to have someone within that ranking, I don't necessarily think we need to advertise that. As long as we comply with the statute, then we can have out there whatever we want. Wouldn't that be the case? As long as we comply with it. So we don't necessarily need to say that it has to have equal ranking. I think that might be our way out of that. Secondly, so, I've owned an ad agency for a long time, 20 years, and that's my my heart. And I feel like this document, granted, I love the content, but I am an ad person, and I just think that it could be It could be selling Nevada better. And so, I don't know why we wouldn't highlight even graphically the Strip, Lake Tahoe, Lehman Caves. I mean, there are some really great things in Nevada, and besides the frontages of our institutions. So I think that is also something that I'd like to see. Just kind of maybe the pizzazz of the actual document, just kind of elevating it a little bit. Additionally, I think that when we're talking about the opportunity. I feel like we really need to, and I'm happy to submit some copy for you if you want, because coming from someone who was born and raised here, I think it's vital for us to really talk about how big of an opportunity this is. I see Nevada as a place right now, even like I said earlier, maybe this position is viewed as having some challenges, but this position actually is a great opportunity to come in and do some incredible work with a system that is really thriving. So we have these incredible institutions. We have such an array of institutions. I really do think it's a great opportunity for someone, and I'd really love for that copy to reflect that a little bit more. Just really talking about let's not just leave it at let's use up that whole page. Let's talk about how we have, Desert Research Institute here, which is, a gem of our country, to be quite honest. How we have Nevada State that is doing this incredible work with pathways for our students. Let's talk about our two R1 institutions. So, and I know we don't need to, I know you have information on that, but I would really like to see that sold in that opportunity to just talk about the diversity of institutions that we have as well. And then finally, I just to go back to that point of Nevada is an incredible place, and there's so much. Show a picture of the Strip. I've got stock photos. Happy to get them over to you. I've got some great stuff that you could use. Show pictures of what's out happening in northern Nevada, and just really kind of bring up the pizzazz of this document. Just a little bit. So that's my ad person talking. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Regent McDonald.
Yes, I'm very happy to be on the board, and I can listen and take in all the information and try and assess all the applicants and wish them the best of luck. But I'm also in the process of transitioning from an active regent to a former regent. And that will be, I believe your cutoff is in February, so I would no longer be a regent for a month after that. So I'm going to contribute as much as I can while I'm still on this committee, but I probably won't have any voting on any decisions to be made. Just would like to contribute what information and what advice that I can give. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that I had called on before that maybe didn't get to their microphone quick enough, or before I go to those regents that are not on the committee? I'll go to, before I go to Regent Downs and Regent Arascotta, I'm going to go back to Dr. Pollard, and then we'll go on to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple observations. So I apologize if I have been redundant, and thank you to the search committee, the search consultants for the background material to prep and to your leadership, Madam Chair. I don't know if this has already been discussed, so if it has, somebody just nod and I'll be quiet. One of the things that I thought would be useful to have very specifically in the desired experience that probably needs to be amplified more in my belief is advocacy experience. I know that we talk about it here in terms of developing key relationships. I would offer that the role of the chancellor or any CEO of a system is broader than developing relationships, particularly given the structure of the legislature here, this idea of of advocacy is I think, a significant one, and I apologize again if that's already been stated. I think under desired experience, I would also say someone who has had experience supporting a board of regents, more than just simply saying that they have worked with. There is a different type of relationship, I believe, that the chancellor has with the board. And I think that would be something to really amplify if that has that already been talked about? Sorry. The other one that I am struck by, leading a large multi-site complex organization. I'm somewhat biased. I want to have someone who has higher ed experience directly having led an organization. I think one of the tensions that exist in our system right now is how do we talk about who we are as well as what we are becoming and understanding the environment and all of the things that are a part of the work that we do. And I think we would benefit from a leader who understands the work of our institution. So if we say, let's have a conversation about fees, but understanding how fees feed into an academic calendar, into enrollment and registration, and all the things about planning a budget, that is, they've had that direct experience. I think also with the number of new CEOs that will be in the president ranks, that person is going to be an official and unofficial mentor, and they need to have that experience, I think, to do that work. I would love to have seen something more about the promise of the glorious diversity of our system, not just in terms of our institutions, but also of our student body. We are a majority-minority system, and I think that someone with a skill set or an experience set would benefit knowing that, stepping into this role and to understand what that looks like pragmatically, and to understand how we are trying to position ourselves as a system to understand that. And I know I must have missed a conversation, so the bachelor's degree or higher from an institution recognized as equal in ranking. I'm assuming, I must have picked up that is some language that comes from the NRS? Yes. Is that so? And therefore, and this is what it says, that this person must have the bachelor's degree? Is that what it says? I don't know. I apologize if I should know.
That is
Yes.
It does say that.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
It says a degree. It does not say
The
bachelor's
bachelor's,
degree.
right.
Okay.
That is correct.
Is our intent, did you all talk about whether to also have additional set that says preferred?
We have discussed preferred but not limited to, so that when we do cast out, as we've been hearing, the net, that we don't miss out on someone. Maybe they do have a bachelor's, but they've been a CEO of, 10,000 people or whatever it might be. They've been in the corporate world. We're not saying we're not looking for academia, but we are casting a big presence so that we can make sure that we get the best person that should be here in our state leading our higher ed system.
Just as an observation, and I appreciate the broad net, just my observation of having sat on the other side of this, that's a signal, whether it be purposeful or not, to potential applicants. So we just have to be prepared, I think, for what the message of a broad net says, and our consultants probably could speak more to that than others, I don't know. But it is it's a statement, one way or the other. That's all I would offer to that. So thank you.
Okay, just to let you know also, before I will go to Regent Downs and Regent Arascata, I will just say this overall. When we said that, normally the final document in the past has not come back to those that are involved in not only the committee, the advisory committee. We are going to send that out, but if you have a comment, it would go to the consultants if something were to be missed. I'm not looking for anything to be missed, but I do appreciate more eyes can make for a better decision, so that we'll be going out to everyone to be able to make sure that the comments were picked up and disseminated properly to the consultants. I'll go to Regent Downs. I don't know who pressed in first or raised their hand, but we'll start there.
Thank you, Chair Breaker. A couple of things. One, I want to point out and just ask the question about, so it says under minimum basic required qualifications, 10 years as a senior executive in higher education. Is it possible to make that 7 to 10 years to give it a little more flexibility? And I know it's really sometimes up to the candidate to determine if what they have is senior executive. And what are we talking about in terms of senior executive? Would that be like dean and above, or VP and above? I mean, that's, I guess, open for interpretation. The second thing is somewhat if I'm looking at the essential duties and responsibilities, the last bullet point, establish a productive working relationship with the members of the Board of Regents to be responsive to and responsible for the directives of the Board of Regents. I like that. I feel like that's almost like its placement makes it seem like the last thing to consider, when really I think it's important that whoever the chancellor is understands a very important part of the role, aside from administering, is the system office and the president's, is to implement the interest of the Board of Regents. Mm-hmm. It's not just, and while you're doing this, also do these directives. So it'd be nice if we were to build it up a little bit, maybe put that somewhere else in the list of things, and also strengthen that understanding that the chancellors, what their job is with respect to the Board of Regents. And the third thing I wanted to bring up, and I keep reading through in case it's buried in there, but I'm just not seeing it. Since our current board policy and code has the chancellor making final decisions when it comes to grievances and such, and even collective bargaining concerns, I mean, there should be something in something to highlight that in the language. I would like to see something related to collective bargaining, given that we have it at several institutions and could have it at more institutions, that it should be somewhere in here where we can, that they understand they're going to be working in a system with collective bargaining and have responsibilities in that direction. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Downs. Regent Arascata.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to echo the sentiments of both Ms. Connor and Dr. Pollard. But on page 4 of 13, as we were describing the description of the desired experience and the minimum experience, the preferred experience, are we looking for a CEO from an Ivy League school or a well-experienced leader requiring multiple years at an R1 university? Because I know there's items in there that say minimum or preferred, but when it comes to the final candidates being interviewed, if one comes from a CEO of a major company of 25 years, are they going to be are they not going to be considered because it's not an R1 university?
The language, I think, in terms of the minimum basic qualifications says that the person needs to have a degree from an AAU or equal university, not that they are the CEO of one of those universities. So the language that's how we interpret that language. That will be one of numerous criteria that would be used in assessing these candidates. But again, they wouldn't need to be the president of Harvard but that's just an example of one of the 65 or so AAU schools. But again, the input we're hearing from you very clearly is one, yes, we need to comply with that statutory requirement, but two, there are ways in which we can keep our minds open and be more inclusive about the educational institutions these folks were educated at. It doesn't say where they can now work. Does that help?
Yes, and I have great confidence in the process of delineating who is going to be a preferred candidate or a shining candidate. But I just want to make sure that at the conclusion of all the interviews and all the filtering of the applicants, that if we have a shining CEO that rises head and shoulders against anyone that has worked at or been at an R1 university, that CEO has an opportunity to lead this system. It's important to have that. Thank you. And then I'm going to go back also. I believe both Chair Brager and Regent Goodman described this, and I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce of Las Vegas is salivating by the accolades that have been cast upon them, which those two could definitely work at. But describe the system in Nevada that would make someone want to come here. Even the benefits of our location, north and south, and the majestic Lamoille Canyon up in Elko, or the Mount Charleston, and some of the beauty of Lake Tahoe. There's so many accolades that can be placed upon the state of Nevada. It is a beautiful, beautiful location, and I just feel more needs to be amplified to show the beauty and the opportunity of coming here to the state, not just to work, but to live. And then let me go one more question. Hold on, I apologize. Thank you. I have a bunch of notes. But some of the essential competencies in which Dr. Pollard touched upon was, I would really like to see the essential competencies of leadership, communicating, building trust and credibility, relationship building, political savvy, community engagement, big picture orientation, problem solving, professionalism, integrity, values diversity, and is adaptable and resilience. This person needs to be a high level leader. And it's imperative that we select the right person for this position. Let me see if I have any more notes here. Thank you very much, Chair Brager. As of right now, I'm just going to hold a few comments.
That's okay. You're welcome to do that. Regent Goodman. Are you sure? Well, I don't, okay. So are there other regions that have not had an opportunity to speak in regards to item number 4?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Boylan, or Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, this is Regent Boylan. I'm trying to be official here. So through you to legal. My question is, if the NRS says it has to be just a degree, it could be a associate's degree, right? Are we going to have a person with just an associate's degree as our chancellor? And a legal, I'm referring this to you. How does that work? Can we say that we have to have a bachelor's degree? Why not a master's or a PhD?
Yeah, good question, Regent Boylan. This is Chris Nielsen for the record. Without doing research on this issue, my opinion would be that yes, you have to follow the statute and that there has to be a degreed individual. But when you couple that, statutory responsibility to hire a chancellor, and coupled with the fact that you as Regents as a whole govern the system as a whole, I think you have latitude to define what degree means. And so in this document here, for instance, under item 4, it's right now under the draft profile, it's determined to be the degree, the bachelor's degree. But I think you'd have latitude to define that.
Thank you. So what Mr. Regent Downs said and Regent Harris-Carter, I agree with both of them. And we need all those great, nice things in a person. So if someone had an associate's degree, we would still have to look at them if they had other qualities like the top CEO or experience and because we are higher education is what I'm trying to get at. We need at least a master's degree and higher. I don't believe in just a bachelor's degree for someone who's going to be the head of our one universities and colleges, et cetera, et cetera. So we would have to just stick to anything, just an associate's degree. Would that be fine? Or does this committee decide that, it has to be bachelor's and higher? If you could clear that again.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, Yeah, again, Chris Nelson for the record. Again, I believe incorporating the statutory requirement of a degree into this, your ability to set the minimum qualifications through your ability to hire a chancellor. So you have discretion today. That is one of the decision points today in the minimum in approving these the profile is whether you want a bachelor's degree or higher or lower. I mean, clearly under Nevada law there has to be a degree, but I think you have some latitude to define that. And currently, if it's drafted, or if it's approved as drafted, it would be a bachelor's degree as evidenced on page 4 of the document before the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Nielsen. I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
You're welcome. Thank you. Regent Goodman.
I did want to add, I do believe that it's important to relay in this application that we are sophisticated. I think sometimes people might look at Nevada and think we're just kind of the Wild West. I think that there are some preconceived notions about our state and also about Las Vegas even, that it's just a gambling town. So I think it would be important to emphasize that sophistication. And then I have to mention on the CSN Presidential Search Committee, they had, I forget who said it, but someone had a great line and they said, can we put you behind enemy lines with a penknife and have you come out better off than you were before? And it's really that kind of idea of can you walk into something? Are you going to know how to pivot? Are you going to know how to handle it? Have that ability? And again, like this is that kind of position where it's a challenge. I feel like it's something where someone wants to come in here and really be able to shape something. They have all the pieces. It's just really making it a true system and making it even better than it is now.
Thank you for that. I do have Chair Carvalho sent a email because she is she might be out of the country, I'm not certain which, but I'm going to read one part of what she said, that she still believes that it's most appropriate for the chancellor to have at least a minimal degree with a preference for a PhD and deep experience in higher education. The ideal candidate, in her view, would have a combination of industry and academia leadership experience. And I will give you this and also President Whitfield's information before we leave today. I want to, I'm going to kind of summarize just for a moment here before we carry on.
Brager.
Pardon me?
Chair Brager, it's Regent Brown. Sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not see that. Regent Brown,
You are
please.
fine.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add, not to belabor and reiterate what others have said, because I echo many sentiments, but I really want to just focus on the next chancellor needs to be someone who's forward-thinking leader who can lead in both academic and operational areas. I mean, they have 13 bosses, and then they have 8 direct reports that lead their own campuses. This is not this is not an easy task, but we do need someone who can be innovative because we need to implement more innovative programs, and while navigating budget constraints, while still focusing on how we improve student success, faculty development, and build out further community engagement. So I really just wanted to reiterate that having a strategic thinker in there that can handle they can play chess while everybody else is playing checkers, probably really helpful. And then the last thing I'll say is that I'm hoping that we can get somebody, and I believe President Pollard said this, but we are in a multi-institutional system, including community colleges and research institutions, and they need different needs. And so having an individual that can not only understand, but make sure that the 8 presidents are moving in the same direction while fulfilling their specific duties to their institutions, but making sure our system is being systematic in how we move forward. So thank you, Chair Brager.
Thank you, and I'm sorry that I almost missed you. I'm glad that you reached out. Is there anyone else that I have not called upon before I speak would like to make a comment that is on the committee? Oh, Dr. Pollard.
I apologize, Madam Chair. You said, but I will be very brief. Just 3 other points. I really want to amplify the last 2 comments that were made. Regent Goodman's point about the sophistication, how we project the sophistication of the system. That is a better way of saying what I was trying to say earlier. What we choose to put down in terms of requirements and minimums and so forth is a reflection of our perceived sophisticatedness or not, sophistication or not. So I really want to, we have to be consistent in that if we want to project exactly what Regent Goodman is saying, then we need to be very thoughtful about our business. Our core business is education. And it's okay to want an educated person to lead the system. In fact, I would say that should be a mandate of what we do. And the third thing that I would offer is that the majority or close to the majority of the students who are enrolled in the NSHE system are not attending R1 institutions. And every time we start talking about the potential leadership of this system, we somehow defer back to the idea that either passively or assertively that this person should have a background in an R1 institution. Very important that they can have that. But I would offer that there are a number of phenomenal leaders who could lead this system who may not have had that background. So we should be very thoughtful about our language in terms of the projected sophistication we want to have and that we believe we are, our commitments around owning the business that we're in, and then third, about remembering the composition of the student body in NSHE. Very important point, and thank you, and I won't say anything else today.
No, I think everyone has value and is important. If you think of something, this is a time. We don't want to, and I will say this, even though I am going to kind of change from what things say, is that everyone's going to get that final draft, but we don't want to rewrite it at that point. It needs to be very specific. We're not going to be starting over, but if it isn't there and we deem it to be extremely important, it'll get there. But we're not looking at that time. We want your opinion, but not a revision. So I'm just going to say it that way, and I hope that sounds polite. So I'm going to move through what I am hearing here today, and then we'll go on to the advertising plan. So I love that you're hearing the passion, not only those of us that have been here for a long time, but for those that have seen what's here, having been stepped into a position and have just went in boldly and directly and have made some significant good changes. I do think in the title, the setting, where you have this, that it says the setting, I feel like that we are a full spectrum of education within our state. And someone could come here and be anything that they want. And I think projecting that in better language that I'm saying right now, and I can go to my left here. Stephanie is good at giving me better marketing language. I use all of this when I send out something to someone or I want them to come here, or why does a CEO, because I work with some that come in real estate. And when they ask me why, I just kind of, they're like, okay, hear your passion. I mean, from the Las Vegas Strip that is world renowned, to the settings up in north from, as we've heard already, Lake Tahoe and all the hiking, biking. I mean, biking here is essential to some people's lives. And from Death Valley to the Valley of Fire to the other northern components of trails and different things that are up in the north and more in the south. I won't go on. Even just taking the drive through Caliente and Pioche and things like that is pretty amazing, as those were railroad towns years ago, to Boulder City, to the dam, to, I mean, we could go on, all of us could probably give one value of why, from the beach cities, 3.5 hours, you're in California, you're in Utah, to the other components that have weekend trips. Where can you do that in other parts of the states? So I do think that that serves as a lot of value, and I won't go on because I could name things we did as a kid when I was here. I mean, it used to be, and I'll just say this, it'll be funny. Driving to Red Rock, you needed your lunch. I mean, nothing was on the way there when I grew up. And I'm not going to say that it was in the 50s, but I'm talking a long time ago. But it was interesting when you grew up back then. I mean, we literally played where Guanamacall was in the desert with wild horses. So just to give you an idea where some of us come from, that's what it was like when I grew up here. And you still could only water every other day, quite frankly. But we figured that out quickly, and there were no fences. So you'd go to this house this day and your house that day. Swimming pools were not a common thing at that day. So anyway, I think you're getting a good feeling of what and how we feel about our state, and that the state of Nevada offers anything that you want, you really can find it here. The cultural now with the, I just went blank on what it's called. Pardon me? No. Anyway, where we go for plays and I just went blank. The Smith Center. Thank you. I wasn't hearing you. The Smith Center. I mean, we didn't have that before, but now we have some of the plays that are in New York City. So anyway, that's where we're at on that. If I've left anything out, this is the time I think we heard about how we want to cast the biggest net, that it could be someone that, I mean, if you had a degree 25 years ago, is that it is important, but it as is important that someone's been on the ground working in different capacities. So I believe that everyone was heard, and Regent Goodman, we'll go back to you and then we'll move on to number 5.
Thank you. I apologize, but I would like to hear the perspective from Dr. Nichols regarding this idea: is a bachelor's degree enough? Should we ask for a master's? Should we require a doctorate? I have a bachelor's degree. I don't feel that I'm qualified to be the chancellor, but also this is, I'm only done 2 years here as a regent, but I would really love your perspective, Dr. Nichols, as a former chancellor and just a leader in our state.
This is Jane Nichols, and I think you called upon me for my opinion on this. And so it is the currency of higher education to gain respect and to be able to supervise presidents and work with the Board of Regents that you be qualified and educated. The degree that's listed in the advertisement, I have no problem with that, knowing that when you get ready to look at someone and you get ready to hire someone, your preference will be for someone with credentials that are so outstanding that there's no question that others will respect them. So, I don't think the wording of the advertisement is as important as the attitude of the board as you go forward to look for someone who will be able to command the respect of the state leaders and the Board of Regents and the presidents, not to mention the faculty, senate chairs, and students of the institution.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate that. You've sat here. We could tell before in your comments that you love the state, as everyone does, but I just wanted to bring that out as you being a past chancellor, and I thought that was important. I appreciate everyone's input today. It is extremely valuable. This is not just one person's opinion or just the board's opinion. This matters. We are a very tight community, and there are a lot of people out there that support us and will continue to support us, and they are due, our students and our community is due the best chancellor that we can find. And I think that we've been given some very good information today that will help us move forward in finding that right person, and they should want to be here. And so I look forward to us continuing on, not only with our meetings, with that value. Dr. Gibb.
Bill Kibler for the record. I just wanted to make just kind of a summary comment for me based on these things I've heard and also based on my own experience. I think the bottom line is what we're looking for is leadership. And leadership comes from many ways and manifests itself different ways. Leadership that can be effective in a higher education setting, though, which doesn't require that one comes from higher education, but it sure gives you a leg up. I've had the opportunity to work with presidents, CEOs, even chancellors that came from the military, that were general officers, came from government work, and came from business work just through my career. Some of them were exceptional. Some of them were horrible. It's a deeper dive into what their leadership experience and their ability to do some of the things that everyone said here, their ability to be diverse in their thinking, work with a variety of institutions, have demonstrated through their leadership their ability to apply those skills. We just passed Veterans Day, so I think about general officers. One doesn't become a general officer without having extraordinary leadership skills. But that doesn't mean those would transfer seamlessly to a higher education setting. Again, I've worked with some that did, and I've worked with a couple that, gosh, we should have never gone there. And so it's that deep dive in terms of the background checks, the reference checking, the really understanding clearly how they have shown throughout their career, whether they're coming from business, higher education, government, whatever, has manifested itself in their ability to meet the kinds of requirements that we're specifying that we need in this system and in this state is what's ultimately more important than specifically did they have this experience or that experience. So looking at that overall, I just wanted to get that in. Thank you.
No, thank you
very
for your
much, Madam Chair.
perspective, because you've been here 6 or 7 months?
Not even 6 yet.
Not
5
even
months.
6 yet, okay. But I think that's very important, coming from somewhere else and the positions that you've held and the respect that you've garnered. I think that's very important. I appreciate that, sir. Yes, sir, I can tell.
I just wanted to make a comment. I know everybody's rubbing their hands and ready to get on board and try and select the best individual we can for the next chancellor. But from my observation, the cream always settles on top, all right? And we're looking for the best of the best. So I don't think we're going to entertain no more than maybe a minute anyone that submits an application to be the next chancellor with an associate's degree in basket weaving. Okay, we all know that they're not going to cut the mustard, right? So we are looking for the best of the best, and we're not going to settle for anything less than that. So all of these connotations about an associate's degree or a master's degree, anyone can submit, and we will scrutinize their potential to be the next chancellor. And we know what we want, and we're not going to settle for anything less than the best, right? So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think in hearing what you said, it depends on how they've used those degrees. You can have a degree and failed at everything you've done. It doesn't mean that we're going to look at you and take that. So I think that's important to keep in mind. So thank you for that, sir. We are now, if there's no other comments on item number 4, we will go to item number 5, the advertising plan.
Wait, Madam Chair, this is your counsel. Before you leave item number 4, there is an opportunity to take action on item number 4, and the options being the committee has the discretion, but the choices would be to approve the draft profile as discussed today, or to direct the search consultants to revise the draft profile based on the comments received at today's meeting with the final review and approval of the search chair.
Thank you for that information. Regent Goodman.
I'd like to make a motion that Greenwood Asher and Associates revise the draft profile with what was said today and based on the comments in the meeting, and provide a final review for the chair to obviously approve. Is that good, Chris?
May I ask a question to legal? So in regards to that, does the verbiage have to be that we are going to disseminate it out to everyone for them to reach back with? We're not looking to rewrite it, as I've already said, but if there was something that was totally remiss or missed, that they would be able to give that to the consultants. Does that need to be in there? Or
Yeah, Regent Brager, I guess the short answer is no. I mean, the long answer is that if there would be something to be missed that's not incorporated in an updated draft, should this motion be approved, I think you as chair, having final authority, have the ability to add that in before you finalize it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. On a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. And I don't need to reread it unless anybody has a problem, for where we are going with the Chancellor leadership profile. And we can just do we don't need a roll call vote, do we? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And again, I just really want to make sure that you hear that you are appreciated and that you will get to see that document. I feel like the more transparency, the better. And then if there's anything that you feel is directly needs to go to the consultants, it can go to them through Carrie if you're comfortable. And then they will share with me anything that was not voiced throughout this situation or meeting, excuse me. Turn it back over to the firm for the advertising plan.
Thank you, Madam
I
Chair.
have one quick question.
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Was there a motion on item number 3? Because it says for possible action.
Yeah, I feel like.
Yeah, again, Chris Nielsen, there was possible action. You're correct, Regent McMichael, but is my understand it's just more optional. I mean, they're all that way when their notices for possible action, but I don't think there's really the meat and potatoes of today's meeting is really contained in agenda items 4 and 5 that really I believe, and I'll defer to Carrie, that require action. If that makes sense. Michael.
I just wanted to make note of that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We're going to go back to the.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So once that leadership profile is finalized, we will condense it into a smaller version and really cast a wide net within advertising publications and outlets and that sort of thing. So we do have a draft advertising plan. We have about 16 recommended outlets and publications listed, with 17 and 18 being a complementary outlet on the Greenwood Asher website and LinkedIn page. And the purpose of this really is to maximize the visibility of the position within diverse prospects. So you'll notice that a lot of the outlets or associations are within diverse associations, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to open it up to you all to kind of revise that and let us know if there are any additional outlets that you would like us to add or remove, that sort of thing.
May I say, just add a little bit? Thank
Absolutely.
you very much, Isa. This is a very broad net within the higher education space. So understanding that. If you would like this net to be even broader out into, the more popular press, we would need to add some things. But within the higher education space, you've got the broadest net possible with this list. But again, there may be some other places that you would like to see it. I see, for example, I'm an Economist magazine junkie. Occasionally you see higher education opportunities advertised in the Economist magazine. I'm not suggesting that particularly, but just opening it up, there may be some other venues that you'd like to see this opportunity presented. But you've got some real expertise, on your committee and on your board, so that guidance would be appreciated.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone on the committee? You have something? Oh, Regent Goodman, sorry.
We're talking about how obviously this is a national search, but there is a lot of talent in Nevada, and we've talked about the need to be able to navigate the state. And it may be worthwhile to do an ad that would be in maybe the Nevada Business Journal. Maybe we do something that is, in the Reno Gazette Journal or the Las Vegas Review Journal or something like that. It might be interesting to just kind of let people know, business leaders here in Nevada, that this is a great opportunity that's available, just because we've had that discussion. So, and then are you doing anything on social? Are you doing anything on X or anything like that where we're putting something out there just to say this is available? Or
Mostly on our LinkedIn page, but
Great.
We can advertise it on the campus pages if that's something that they would like. That they would like to do. I'm not sure.
I think it would be worthwhile for the system to put it out on their social outlets as well, just so that we are letting people know, whatever you create, if we could put it there, I think that would be, important.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Mr. Gillen.
Thank you. So this, I don't know, this might sound strange coming from the HR guy. I think this is a massive list. My assumption, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is our top candidates probably aren't going to come from the post and pray method. I call this the post and pray method. We post a job and we pray people apply to it. So I think the mix is huge. What I can offer, I can check with my team to see if we have any current contracts with any of these spots, so that we can save some costs there. I think higher ed jobs is probably one that I think we have. So we could cut some costs there. So that's something I can take back and then I'll share with Carrie and then she can get to you on, that way we can reduce the cost. But these are good. These are the ones that we all use. I do like the idea of some local publications as well. Try to get those folks that maybe don't know we're searching for a chancellor or maybe didn't think it was something for them. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think that's important. And if you take these examples, it can't be a one line in the RJ, no one would see it. So however that gets done, that it would be something that someone would recognize or be more than just a normal advertisement. Anything from anyone online? Mr. McDonald.
I was just curious, would there be any advertisement in the Desert Companion?
I think we'll need to rely on you for defining for us media here in Nevada that are the most effective ways to get the word out. So if that is one of them, then we would do that.
And it's Regent McMichael. Don't ask me why I was doing that. I know who you are. So, and we do have a whole state, so we don't want to disregard our northern partners, that's for sure. Anything else on the advertising? Go ahead.
Are you also going to be doing a press release or anything like that as well? So maybe some unpaid media can get picked up?
That's an excellent question because my colleague will validate my comment here in the margins on my notes that says earned media. And perhaps that would be a really effective way, as opposed to paying for advertising in some of the local publications, but to use earned media for that. So a media release. And so it becomes newsworthy and gets picked up by the media. So, but I think as an expert in this field, we would absolutely take your direction to do that. Thank you.
And that would be, for our state, that would be very important because a media release versus just trying to do an ad in a paper that people look at online any more than they do. I don't know what their publication is across the state. From all publications, it's probably not what it used to be.
Well, and I would like to pick up on a theme that's been raised previously by several of you, and that is sophistication, right? And I think we can present a more sophisticated posture for this opportunity via media release than a little box on the bottom of a magazine. So.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, we are very sophisticated. Everyone wears suits and ties. Anything else on the advertising plan? Because otherwise then we would be on to new business.
Again, Regent,
I'd
Chair
like to make a
Braga, this is
motion.
your-
Oh, yeah, we're going to do a motion on that before I
Thank
go
you.
on. Thank you. Sorry about that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the advertising plan with added comments from the meeting today and have that get back to the chair for final approval.
Second.
And thank you for that. I think I just get carried away in the moment there. When it said possible. I have a motion on the floor for the advertising plan and a motion by Regent Goodman, a second by Mr. McMichael. And we will cast a vote now. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. I think you have your task in front of you for the next steps. Again, a big thank you to everyone. I feel like we gave a little more information than was in some of the emails that have been spoken about. I'll give you these two before we leave. So we will go on to new business. Is there any new business by anyone? On the committee, Mr. McMichael.
I propose under new business that we have written instructions for regents that are transitioning from their active role to their position as former regents. I haven't seen anything or been aware or been contacted as to how a regent winds down at this point, and I would like to see that we have something written, instructions of how that happens, since we have several regents that are leaving and will no longer be active as of January. Thank you.
Thank you. And sometimes agenda items take a little bit longer. I think on this one, we need to make sure that there is something that the three current regents can get to know what they need to do in next steps.
Madam Chair, I would just like to confirm for Regent McMichael that we do have a process. It's certainly nothing extensive, but we will be reaching out to you.
Thank you for that. Any other new business? If none, we will go to public comment. Is there public comment in Reno?
There is not.
GBC?
There is none.
Oh, okay, thank you. GBC?
There is none.
Thank you. Las Vegas? Oh, Mr. McMichael.
Yes, under public comment, I would just like to remind everyone that when the new administration takes place in January 20th, we need to make sure that we take into consideration moves that might be made in the educational realm that will affect not only the entire country, but specifically here in Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the telephone? Okay, thank you so much. I really, again, think we got a lot accomplished, and this meeting is adjourned.